If you're just saying in the chat window, you're leaving 90% of the AI's capabilities off to the wayside, and you're not really using it to its full potential.
Hello and welcome to AI Upstarts. This is the show where we get engineers and environmental professionals who are using AI in their work to show us exactly how they do it. We've got James McWilliams, who's a licensed engineer based out of Long Island, New York, who specializes in traffic and transportation engineering. And it's great to have you on the show.
Good morning, Andrew.
Well, let's start with how you got started with this.
I've always been interested in building things. I think that a lot of engineers were interested in Legos when they were a kid, or I see most of the time video games, actually, just kind of thinking through problem solving. I went to Stony Brook University to get my engineering degree. I am in Long Island, New York. I work for a firm called Traffic Planning and Design. We call it TPD. We do traffic, transportation engineering, roadway engineering, bridges, but also some other disciplines as well. I am a traffic engineer myself. So, traffic planning, roadway design is kind of my background. And I also have some experience in drainage. I've always had a particular fascination with AI and automation, creating small little scripts for just quick little data migrations, or even just using common engineering industry standard programs like Civil 3D to automate the grading of a road or site plans. It's very much faster than creating everything by hand or just by putting contours into AutoCAD.
ChatGPT comes out. Tell me where it went from there.
I tried ChatGPT straight away. I noticed it was particularly adept at coding. So it would build me these scripts. I would copy paste them from ChatGPT into Excel, Microsoft Access, and I would get these programs that were doing a lot of administrative tasks for me. And from there, it just kind of built up. With Claude coming out, or Cursor, something like that, you can install it on your computer and it can look into all of the files that you have on your computer. And that's how it gains context and becomes powerful. If you're just saying in the chat window, there's nothing wrong with that. However, you're leaving like 90% of the AI's capabilities off to the wayside, and you're not really like using it to its full potential.
So those people who have only tried chatting with an AI are missing out big time.
Definitely missing out big time. It can be frustrating because you try and tell your buddy or your friend that, it can do this, this, and this. But sometimes it can be hard for them to actually believe you. All you have to do is start.
Tell us and summarize your stack at the moment. Which tools are you using as of today?
I am an advocate for Claude, Anthropic. I think that a lot of people have heard about it. I don't know if everybody understands quite what it is compared to Copilot or ChatGPT. I think they're just winning the race at the moment. I have used Claude's latest model, Fable 5, is outstanding, incredible, and it's clear to see it's the reason why they're winning the race.
Yeah, understood. So you are pretty much all in Claude right now. A lot of the work you have to do to get the AI set up and working, actually, it's kind of model software agnostic. So, writing the steps down for a task that you want an agent to do, you're going to have to do that exercise, whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude or whichever model.
Yeah, I'd say that the biggest concept that you should learn with AI is just how to manage context as opposed to prompt engineering. It could be data, it could be email correspondence, it could be process knowledge, it could be even plans that you can feed the AI that gives the model more context about how to complete a specific task.
So context is basically what the agent sees. And what you're saying is you got to put the right stuff in front of the AI for it to do a good job.
Yes, exactly. If you make your prompt much longer and with much more detail and specifics, that you're going to receive a better result. However, it's very tedious for someone to always be copying over the same type of context into that prompt window. So we want to store it and then point the agent to that context at the right time. So that's how you kind of build a structure around the agent so that it can give you better output and save you a lot of time.
That's awesome. You've got an example for us today that you're going to take us through.
We do traffic signal plans all the time at my firm. And one of the kind of characteristics of those traffic signal plans is all of these call outs everywhere of item numbers, relating to the items on the traffic signal plan, the wiring, the signal heads. And it can be difficult to spot any mistakes on those like very tedious plans, all of those item numbers usually have a quantity next to them. So one of the things I like to do is give the plan to Claude. And you can just do this in chat by uploading the plan and saying, I want to do an audit of this plan. We're going to look at the item numbers. We're going to look at our table of items versus the call outs in the traffic signal plan. And I just want to make sure those things are the same there. If you're using one of the more advanced models like Anthropic's Opus model, it'll usually pick out some very interesting things that you wouldn't maybe have caught yourself because it just takes too much time to go through every single little call out on there across maybe 10 or more signal plans. So you can make it a skill in Claude. A skill, Claude can just have that kind of in its brain immediately, and it can reach for the skill and say, oh, he's asking me to audit traffic signal plans. He probably means we're going to look at the item numbers and compare them to the table and make sure everything is correct and neat. And more importantly, that the quantities are correct.
One of the big advantages of the idea of a skill or saving a prompt or saving an agent is that you then move to more of I click a button and it runs these preset collection of steps.
There are a lot of workflows that you do day to day for different types of engineering work or just even simple administrative work where your firm or you specifically have a set of steps that you work through in order to achieve the result. I call this standard operating procedures, an SOP. It's one of the best resources that you can give a new hire or an intern, a junior engineer, so that they have documentation that they can refer back to. I can't sit with an intern for 5 hours a day. I have to do my own work. So for them to have that resource to look back on and say, oh, hey, I don't remember what James said about doing this one thing in Synchro. Let me look back at the process documentation. So you could see that system would work very well with an intern. And we can think of the same system working well with an agent.
We have picked a task or a process that we want to automate. We've used AI to turn that into a process document, an SOP. That's already a huge win, documenting those SOPs. You're saying we can take it one step further and we can give that standard operating procedure to an AI?
Yes, exactly. And for anybody that is trying to make that leap, I would tell them that your first step is maybe just get away from the chat. Try and use co-work or use those co-pilot agents. This AI trend is exploratory by nature. I see my coworker doing something. I see my neighbor, my friend doing something crazy. I want to try something like that, right? Engineers are, just kind of wired for this thing. And if you go in there and play around with it, you'll come up with these crazy new ideas that you never would have if you were just, following your manual workflow. The AI will give you some ideas. It'll pop up with something that maybe isn't technically correct or formatted correctly, but you look at it and you're like, oh, I wonder if we could structure it in a different way that it would actually be useful to me.
We're going to do a little quick fire round. I'm going to say some AI words, phrases, concepts, and I just want your quick, immediate reaction to them. So let's kick off with Copilot.
Not there yet, blagging, but they have a big system to fill,
Hallucinations.
Human in the loop. That's my answer.
That's how you fix it. Prompt engineering.
Yesterday's context engineering. But the first level of understanding AI.
Gemini.
Good for visuals and also good for learning. I feel like our younger people are mostly using Gemini and Google.
5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you think AI in engineering is headed?
Good question. I actually don't have a completely optimistic view. I think it's good to kind of view these things realistically. So AI could go a lot of different ways, even for engineering, right? So I think it's important that we form a culture around AI that is human centric, making sure that humans are still in control of things and the engineering judgment and all that. And we use AI essentially as a tool, but maybe in a more advanced view, like an intern that would do things, just whole processes that if you have enough experience, you can check the AI and suddenly your output has increased, your quality has increased. And I think that in 5 years, what we might see is that the ground level of that corporate structure is now going to be elevated in that your regular engineers that are handling project tasks start working with agents as an orchestrator, handling multiple agents that handle multiple different projects and kind of comes into the engineer and they're able to check things based on the structures that they have built around that agent. And suddenly they have project management skills. So maybe the ground level of the corporate structure for engineers is project manager.
Learn to be a manager as a college grad, is what you're saying.
There's going to be a lot of people that are just very uncomfortable, feeling like they're behind, feeling scared about AI. But if you make the workflow not so different, maybe just a little bit at a time, like, oh, instead of, manually taking data out of Synchro and putting it into a table, we're going to use this little tool, just a little tool where you put the text files in and it spits out a table and that's it. And I think even the people that are like specifically against AI would agree that, yeah, I want that. I don't want to just be typing out data, and inputting it into Excel.
How do you think clients are going to react? And how do you think client work is going to change?
Yeah. So personally, I think that everything's going to get a lot more strict, stringent, but also a lot better. So everybody has access to AI, right? It's been democratized. So the agencies that you send reports into or plans, they're also going to have AI to audit and check. So everything's just going to become, I think, more accurate. You spend a little bit more time on plans, or maybe not more time, because the AI is cutting down on that time, but you put more effort into the plans with the use of the agent. It kind of extends your abilities to catch every little detail. Like we still work off of plans that are 2D, and that leaves a lot of room for error. So I think that in 5 to 10 years, we may move into an era where 3D renderings are just commonplace, and you have to submit a 3D rendering for even small projects to make sure that everything is caught up front and doesn't make its way out into the field where it costs money or could cause safety issues.
I think it's really interesting, this idea that basic work today gets faster, quicker, cheaper. AI can do some of that stuff. It's always checked by humans, but basically that becomes more straightforward. And therefore, permitting authorities or whoever you're submitting some of this work to is actually going to add on more requirements here, because doing 3D renders is now very, very easy to do. And they would have never asked for that before because it would have cost tens of thousands of dollars to do it. But now you can get an AI to do that in a reasonable amount of time, in a few hours, to get something good. Actually, they're going to start asking for more stuff. More requirements are going to be seen as proportional. And so you're going to end up doing new stuff. It's not just going to be the work that we do today gets automated and gets quicker. I think it will evolve. Do you have any controversial views about AI that you think are kind of not everybody will agree with?
I think it's actually more commonplace for the average engineer to kind of fear AI and really not know what's going to happen, to their livelihood. I think that on the individual level, with engineers having more time to actually pay attention to the actual engineering, we might have a lot more proficient engineers, that are kind of well versed in talking about the design or showing the design to other people, making sure that we have more consensus. I think this is how we progress. We're able to take on bigger projects. We're able to make sure those projects are built well for less cost. If we can make sure that our designs and our planning is bulletproof upfront here as engineers so that nothing can be said in the field, that's going to drive not only our economy, but I think also just how we progress with technology, how we progress as people. I mean, Elon Musk is talking about putting data centers on a meteor. I think it's just a really interesting time to be alive. And I think people would probably benefit from having some more optimism around it. Use AI, use it, and see how you feel about it after.
What an incredible vision for us to end on here. If you are listening to this and you think you are one of these people who's using AI a lot and pushing the frontiers of what's possible, if you are maybe someone senior at a firm and you know that you've got somebody maybe a little bit younger or more junior who is doing exactly this kind of stuff and we could have a great conversation with, please let us know. We would love to have them.
Hey, let's explode.